Yo, what is up guys, Grim here, and today we got the patch notes, and I'm going to be going through them for you guys, giving my opinion on a few things. There's quite a few changes here, but just remember guys, the perspective I'm going to be taking is from kind of like a clear speed magic finder softcore player. So I'm going to skip over a few skills which aren't too relevant to me, like the trap stuff and all that, because otherwise this would be a really long video, and I don't know too much about traps to be honest. So let's get straight into it. I got a new setup here and I will be streaming for Incursion, so you guys can look forward to that. Let's get straight into the patch notes. So to start out with, the main kind of content outside of the league is that we're getting like 31 new uniques, some of them from Incursion, some of them not. We're getting 2 new Rogue Exiles. This is actually pretty relevant because early on in the league, these are the main things that kill you. So if you're a hardcore player, definitely be looking out for them. They generally add in some pretty nasty ones, so keep your eyes peeled. And then we're getting 22 new div cards. I've been seeing a few of these, and some of them are pretty damn crazy. Like one of them gives you Light Poacher, some of them give you level 100 Elder and Shaper items, so it's pretty crazy. So these divination cards, if they drop in maps, they could be very lucrative to farm. It depends on drop rates, but we'll just have to see, so that's pretty exciting. And we're getting 176 new Vaal implicits. That is probably the main thing for me in this patch. That's like the big ticket kind of addition. And they're also removing some implicits as well as buffing some. So what comes to mind when they say removing, I'm thinking like the chaos damage kind of mods on weapons, which weren't very interesting and weren't very desirable. I think some of those might be going away, and they're obviously introducing new ones, and they said that they would be upgrading some, and we've already seen that. They're upgrading stuff like skills on Vaal implicits, like the purities and stuff like that. So that's pretty damn interesting. Varling items is going to be one of the main things I'm going to be experimenting with in this league, specifically with the double varling in the Incursion Temple. I think it's going to be very good. They did also say that they reworked a few lab enchants and added some new ones. Obviously, we've got new skills here. One particular example in the patch notes is that they nerfed the Arc Helm enchant from 3 to 2 at the Uber level. So it's just one less chain, but Arc is still way stronger than it ever was before, so that's not a big deal. Next up, they also added in 6 new Nemesis mods. So this is particularly relevant for someone like me because I play a lot with Inspired Learning and Headhunter, and this lets you steal Nemesis mods. So Nemesis mods are traditionally some of the most dangerous ones as well, so you might see some really interesting new gameplay kind of opportunities come up, like Volatiles, Bearers, and the new Mortar mods that got added in, I believe, in an Abyss. Really did shake up gameplay that made you think a little bit more, especially when you didn't have much gear. You have to dodge stuff, and it's really fun, so I'm really glad to see that adding in some new Nemesis mods. I'm curious to see if they'll add in any annoying ones to make Headhunter a little worse, like Shroud Walker. That could definitely be pretty interesting. So next, just some item filter kind of stuff. I put this in here because I will be updating my item filter for you guys with this new stuff when I can kind of see what is required. So it's going to take me a day or two to actually play Incursion to know, like, okay, so we don't want to see any stacks of this below this point and all that kind of stuff, and which blue items do we want to see on the floor. I didn't get alpha access like Neversync, so my filter is going to be a day or two behind his. If that's a problem for you guys, just check out that one, and I'll post a video when mine's up to date. So traps got mega buffed. We got tons of new traps. This was the trap league, which is really cool for some people, but you know, it's not too important for other people. I'm one of those people. I'm not really a big trapper. In terms of traps, people keep asking me, are they good for clear speed? Are they going to be meta? Should I magic find with them? My opinion is no. Traps are always inherently going to be a lot worse in my opinion than just casting the skill itself. So when you actually look at skills, you can just hard cast it, which is always going to detonate and hit the monsters faster than traps. The advantage that traps has though is that it does more damage and you can throw multiple of them at once. So a good example would be tornado shot traps versus tornado shot. So I can throw a trap on a tornado shot trapper, or I can shoot the tornado shot. Shooting the tornado shot is going to basically take up the same amount of time as throwing the trap, so it's going to take twice as long, in theory, for the traps to blow up and deal their damage, but you'll get 3 times as many, in theory, tornado shots. However, the aiming is random. You cannot use stuff like a full 6 link, although the trap setup is pretty good. I don't know, it just doesn't do it for me. But yeah, if it's your playstyle, I it's great for you, but I can't see yourself using like Queen of the Forest and all that kind of stuff on a Trapper build. You need to take different nodes on the tree. You need to probably play Saboteur or Scion and not Deadeye. It's a very different playstyle, and I don't think it's going to be Vile as the Magic Find meta clear kind of character. But for bosses, as I just said, you're going to get triple the amount from throwing a trap as you do the normal skill, so it could be quite good. You can also pre-stack them for bosses, so I think as a bosser, trappers might be one of the best things out there. So that's good stuff. Next up, skills I actually do know a little bit about, which we'll talk about here, and which ones that I think might have some potential. So let's go straight into that past the trap stuff and into the actual clear speed kind of stuff. So first up is Rain of Arrows. So Rain of Arrows on paper looks pretty bad here. Having a 50% damage effectiveness at 20 is pretty damn bad, but what you'd be doing is once you get to a certain damage threshold, it doesn't really matter how much damage your skill does to a certain extent, especially with a curse support and a aura support if you're rolling with a party. And even solo, you can get to a point with Abyssals where it just doesn't matter, you're one-shotting everything anyway. So it's all just down to how the skill operates and functions. So Rain of Arrows hits a very large area from what I've seen in the videos, and we don't even know if that's got increased area, the Witch nodes or the Templar nodes. So if you're new, that means you can scale the area of the skill even further. So Rain of Arrows could be very, very good if you can get it to hit the entire screen with its radius, and you have good enough damage to be able to one-shot rare packs and beyond monsters and stuff like that. If that happens, I can see Wind Ripper Rain of Arrows being fairly decent. But if that doesn't happen and you can't hit the entire screen, then Tornado Shot is just going to destroy it. There's just going to be no competition. And I think at maximum gear, Tornado Shot still does destroy it, because Tornado Shot hits the whole screen and it hits off the screen. And I would wager it does way more damage than Rain of Arrows. So a little bit neither here nor there. It's probably very good as a transition kind of skill when you get to maps or while you're leveling as an AoE skill. But in terms of ultimate endgame with like Dying Sun and helmet chance and stuff like that, I think Rain of Arrows is going to come up a little bit short, but it could be pretty fun to play it for day 1, 2, or 3, or if you just don't have enough gear. So that's going to be that one. Next one I want to talk about is Power Siphon. So Power Siphon is a wand skill traditionally. It's been quite bad, just the standard one. Hasn't been used since the very early days of PoE. And that is because Kinetic Blast came out and just completely overshadowed it and did everything it did way better. So that's pretty much still the case. I wanted to talk about it though, because if Kinetic Blast ever goes away for any reason, I think Power Siphon is quite good. Power Siphon basically is going to have auto tracking kind of targeting, from what I can read, which basically means if there's 7 monsters in front of you and you shoot a Power Siphon, they're going to heat seek to those targets. So if you have 7 monsters, you one-shot them all, then this Power Siphon will one-shot the pack for you and it'll be great. It operates very similar to how the old Vaal Power Siphon used to work and works right now. But the downside to this, though, and why it's not just Vaal Power Siphon on Power Siphon, is it only hits in front of you. So that is a problem. It's not going to be as good as Tornado Shot in that regard, because you're basically only hitting in front of you, where Tornado Shot hits the entire screen around you. But it will be quite similar to Kinetic Blast in that it'll be very good in maps where you're always moving forward and there's never monsters behind you. And I don't think it'll be too much of an issue to have to swivel your character around anyway. So the reason Power Siphon is good is because you can link it up with Chain. So you're going to heat seek 7 projectiles at mobs, which will always hit pretty much. Well, at least hit, so connect to the target. And then if you have Chain, you can chain those to another 7 if you're a Deadeye. And if you're using the Chain gem, you could theoretically keep bouncing all around, and it could be quite nice. So that's really, really nice. It also has a truckload of critical strike multiplier on it if you have power charges, as well as critical strike chance and inbuilt chance to gain power charges. So that's very, very good. 7 targets. I'm assuming you could probably scale that further with things like GMP. Whether you would want to, not too sure. I'm sure the Helmet Enchant will also give you probably some more projectiles, so that could be pretty cool. So I think Power Siphon with Chain, probably Dying Sun would be pretty damn nice. And it could be quite good. The way Vaal Power Siphon actually worked is it actually duplicated all the projectiles. So let's say there was 50 monsters on the screen and you shot out a Vaal Power Siphon and it would shoot 50 projectiles. Dying Sun used to make it shoot 150 projectiles, if I remember correctly. It's been a while since I've played it, but if Power Siphon operates in that way, it could actually be better than KB. I'm not sure though exactly how it'll work, but if it does operate with Dying Sun that way, it could be extremely powerful. So, just one thing on Power Siphon as well. The one limiting factor is the range on it. Since it's a like sort of auto-seeking kind of projectile attack, it needs to have a large range. The old Vaal Power Siphon used to go off the screen, which was pretty unreasonable, but if it can be pretty much the whole screen in front of you, Power Siphon might actually see play anyway, even though Kinetic Blast is so good. So yeah, definitely look out for that one. Looks pretty nice and quite fun. So next up is Arc. So Arc is a bit of a funny one here. They buffed the hell out of Arc. It is probably one of the highest buffs I've ever seen in PoE. They basically took it from 0 to hero in one like fell swoop. It's got great single target now. It has pretty damn good AoE. It had good AoE before, and it works very well with heralds. And what I mean by that is because Arc can chain off the screen, it interacts very well with things like auto bomber kind of mechanics. So let's say you have a map like Toxic Sewers, which has very dense corridors and packs are fairly close together in that map. In theory, you shoot an arc and it could chain between multiple packs, and the heralds would do cleanup. So it doesn't actually matter that you're not hitting. Like, let's say you have 7 arcs. Let's say you arc to the first pack, heralds blow everything up, and the arc goes to the next pack, blows everything up. And I've actually tested this on standard, and it does function that way. And you can hit way off the screen with Herald of Ice and stuff like that. So arc, I believe, is very good. Do I think self-cast arc is going to be good? No. Do I think totem arc is going to be good? No. Mines and traps and potentially some other abusive mechanics could be quite good with it, but you didn't hear that from me. I probably will be playing with Arc later on in this league, so it's quite good. Next up, Elemental Hit. So Elemental Hit, everyone's like memeing it, everyone thinks it's bad. On first impression, I thought it looked pretty bad as well. I'm not going to bring up the actual skill tooltip here, but the way it functions is that it can deal 3 different types of damage, and it alternates between 3 different kind of states. So it can do fire damage, cold damage, and lightning damage, and it'll rotate through fire, cold, and lightning. So, when I attack a monster and I hit fire, the way the skill actually works is that it doesn't actually do only the fire damage, it'll just block out you from doing any other elements. So I'll hit with fire and I can't do any lightning and cold damage. So that's fine. I'll hit with lightning, I can't do any cold and fire damage. So the reason it's so good is because the tuning on this skill is such that it actually is tuned so each of these is massive. Like each hit is so massive because you can't do any other type of damage. So it's really absurd. But the wording on it means that if you're using something like Avatar of Fire, I believe it's called on the tree, which converts all damage to fire damage, and you make it so that you only hit with fire using the new threshold jewels, you can actually just convert the lightning and cold, and it will be technically fire, and you're hitting with all 3, but not blocking the other 2 now. So you actually end up with, you hit with the fire-based damage of Elemental Hit, and then you hit with half the cold and half the lightning every time. So you're going to have a massive, massive hit. It's going to be insanely large, and you can scale the hell out of it with elemental damage and stuff like Piscator's Wand. So it's very, very powerful. It's not going to be some crazy AoE clear speed still, but for single target it could be very, very powerful, up there with Barrage and the new Blast Rain. Especially Barrage mainly. Barrage did take a bit of a nerf hit in my opinion, so Elemental Hit might be a very viable option if you're going a Conversion Wander. But yeah, we'll just have to see. Play around with that if you want, guys. Someone on my team is going to do so, so I'll give you updates on if that is good. So next up, Fireball. So Fireball isn't really what I wanted to talk about, but they did buff it a lot. They increased the damage of it quite significantly. As we can see here, we used to have this damage before, now we have this. By itself, Fireball is pretty bad, but the reason it's good is because of Vaal Fireball. And Vaal Fireball has a very low soul cost in the new Vaal skills, and it also has a very low lockout timer. So you could definitely be doing something with that. I just wanted to mention it because the actual single target spell and ability and starter for the build, and filler spell I guess now, is actually quite good. So that is something to remember. Same deal with Spark. They buffed up Spark a ton. Spark was already quite good. It's still not going to be good as EK. It functions very similar to EK but has quite a few downsides. If they made an item which could convert lightning to cold so your heralds would shatter so you don't die to on death effects and you can kind of get that cleanup, Spark would be as good as EK. with different strengths. So if you compare EK and Spark, Spark has the drawback that its projectiles can't go up and down cliffs, whereas EK's can, and they also move a little bit slower and require investment in duration and more projectile speed. However, Spark has the opportunity to go way off the screen with its spiders and has rearming time. What rearming time is basically if you shoot out a volley of sparks and they bounce around and last long enough, they can actually come back and hit an enemy again and do their damage twice, which is quite nice. So there is a few issues with Spark. Some of them have been solved here. You don't need as much duration investment because they upped the duration of the Sparks, and you don't need as much projectile speed because they upped the projectile speed on the base gem, which is quite nice. And they also buffed the damage, so it does more damage. But yeah, there is still a few problems. The main one being is there's no good way to convert to lightning to cold damage or get the cold damage you need to shatter outside of the Brotherhood ring, and that will require you to give up Magic Find, making it a non-optimal Magic Find character. So that's the problem, but Valspark is also very good, and it might see play anyway, but it does suck to give up that Magic Find. So next up, Blade Vortex. This one is definitely going to be good, 100%. Let's see if I can find it here. There it is there. So Blade Vortex has been turned into a much more viable clear speed skill. They took the 20 stacks to 10 and they made it so it ticks faster for each blade. And for clear speed, that is very important. You don't really care how hard it ticks, you just need consistent fast ticks. So that you're not shield charging into a pack and having to wait for the ticks to happen on your Blade Vortex. So lower stacks, faster attacks, very, very powerful. All up, it actually does more damage from what I understand and has increased critical strike chance. So what do all these things mean? This means that it is actually very good for clear speed builds for use with heralds, in my opinion. So you want to go crit Blade Vortex and use heralds to get that area kind of clear. My take on it is that you would go Blade Vortex Auto Bomber, so instead of using a Cosprey's Malice now, you would use a Brightbeak and have a full-length Blade Vortex as your sort of boss killer, portal killer, beyond monster killer, and have your heralds do the clearing for you. I've tried that on standard as well with the 20 stacks. With the 20 stacks, it's kind of meh, but with the 10 stacks and the increased hit rate, I think it could be quite good. Plus another change coming up, which makes Auto Bomber even better. So, last few here, we've got Blast Rain and Barrage. So Blast Rain and Barrage are both single target skills. They're used as kind of intermediate kind of skills before you get to I've got a Headhunter and 5 million exalts worth of gear and can one-shot with stuff with Tornado Shot. These are the skills you use before then. It's always been... I hate Barrage. I hate being close to my targets. I've never liked it. I've tried it every league I try it and I hate it. It's just... I don't like being up close. I like to kite enemies around and kind of move my character the way I want it to. So I've never liked Barrage. So I'm very happy to see Blast Rain get buffed out the arse. Basically... So now every single, like if you've got a Lionized Glare Bow, which is a very good starting bow if you're playing a bow character, you'll be able to convert all your damage to elemental, which is massive, because most of the damage nodes in the Ranger are elemental focused, well the good ones at least. And you also get 25% fire penetration. So this is also very important because fire penetration is essentially a pseudo more multiplier for you, which is very powerful. So they basically buff the hell out of Blast Rain and it's going to be a very appealing option. Especially as kind of partner skill to Rain of Arrows, because they're both area skills and they function fairly similarly. So Barrage got a nerf, which is great in my opinion. Well, another nerf. They're nerfing it every single patch, which is good. It used to be the best skill, and it probably still is better than Blast Rain, but if I had to choose between the both now, I would use Blast Rain just because I like the mechanic better. Barrage is still obviously very good though, so as a Wander, you can choose between Elemental Hit and Barrage, which is fairly nice. I think Elemental Hit will probably be a little worse. Probably a lot worse, honestly. And then you can choose between Blast Rain and Barrage for bows. And Elemental Hit, I suppose. But yeah, Blast Rain's looking good. Barrage, obviously, it's still there. Last one here, Freezing Pulse. So Freezing Pulse, if you're hard casting this, it's not great, but Freezing Pulse totems are legit. You can actually get quite nice clear speed. The amount of projectile speed you can get on Freeze Pulse is insane, and it can actually clear and hit off the screen with Freeze Pulse. With the totems. Self-cast as well, but totems will allow you to get lots of them out and have a very safe kind of character. Very good for going for 100 if you're choosing to do that, and it requires actually no gear. Basically no gear at all, 0. So it's very, very nice. I guess the playstyle is similar to EK, but it's in a shotgun kind of fashion, so pretty nice there. So now we're going to Vaal skills. So Vaal skills got a, in my opinion, pretty big nerf, but they got a lot of other quality of life kind of updates. So to start off with here, we'll just go over kind of the changes. So all Vaal skills overall cost tons less to use. They cost, in a lot of cases, 1/3 of the cost or even less. So that's pretty nice. It means that you don't have to kill as many monsters to get going. Starting up like a build like Vaal Molten Shell is much easier. Before you had to kill like 3 or 4 packs. Now you can probably kill 1.5 packs and be going on your way. So very, very nice. Very cool indeed. Overall, the power level of the skills has obviously been brought up, but now there's a massive cooldown on gaining Vaal souls, which essentially means you can't spam the hell out of them anymore, which is why Vaal skills were actually good. So that cooldown varies from skill to skill, and I'll go over the important ones. The other addition is that you now gain Vaal souls from from damaging rare and unique enemies. For the most part, this is not going to be relevant because you're going to be one-shotting a lot of the rare mobs, they'll just give you 1 Vaal soul anyway. And on the unique monsters, I guess it might be relevant a little bit. But yeah, it's got an internal cooldown on how frequently you can gain the Vaal souls, so you can't just one-shot a rare and gain like a ton of Vaal souls from it. It's going to only give you souls every 1 second. So yeah, that's that. Let's get into the Vaal skills. Okay, so Vaal Arc. This one is very important and is used in combination with Arc. By itself, it's pretty ass, but it basically makes it so so your Arc skill will deal way more damage. It makes your lightning damage lucky. And what that means is that when you're rolling the range of the lightning damage on Arc, so let's say it's 1 to 10,000, it'll roll out twice. So let's say it rolls 3,000, and then it rolls a 7,000. It'll take the 7,000 and deal that damage. That's what lucky means. So it'll actually increase your damage on Arc significantly by using Vaal Arc, and it'll give you that buff for, I don't even know the time. It'll say here, 4 seconds. There you go. Which is very good. It's got a 4-second Vaal lockout timer. That's pretty short, honestly, from what I've seen, and it does a ton of damage, and also puts a big shock on the enemy, which is going to make you do even more damage. So basically, you're going to not use this throughout the map. You're going to get to the boss, you're going to use Vaal Arc, and then you're going to go into just spamming Arc on the boss. Very good. When I make my Arc character, I will be using this most likely, unless I'm using Vaal Breach, but I'm not 100% decided on that yet. So next up, Vaal Rain of Arrows. The reason Vaal Rain of Arrows is here is because it has a fairly low kind of lockout timer. 5 seconds isn't long, and as a bow character, I'm looking at using the new Xerxes, I think it's Heart amulet, which gives you Soul Eater, and this would be my choice to trigger Soul Eater on myself. So Vaal Rain of Arrows could be pretty nice for that. It also does do a lot of kind of boss single target damage, so I kind of get a boss killing skill and a way to trigger my Xerxes, which is pretty nice. I'm not sure if that amulet's going to be amazing, but I'm going to give it a go and see if it increases my clear speed enough to compensate for the lack of Magic Find. So pretty damn cool. Looks like it does good damage. This isn't going to be something you spam, in my opinion, though. You'll use it on the boss, and that's probably it. Next up, Power Siphon. Okay, so this one used to be probably the best build in the game. It's probably easily the fastest build that's ever been in the game, and then it got nerfed. And the reason it's nerfed and not good anymore is because they removed the range of it. What makes Power Siphon good, and we talked about it earlier, is the ability to kind of hit everything on the screen. So if the range is still as small as it used to be, which was quite small after the nerf, it's just not going to be good. We have to wait and see if they did anything to the range, but I think they probably would have said that here, so I don't think Vaal Power Siphon is going to be very good. So that's a bit of a shame, but we'll just have to see if they up that range. So yeah, that's that one. Next up, Vaal Fireball. Okay, so this one has a fairly short cooldown as well of 5 seconds, and that's why it's here. So a map generally takes, about 60 seconds to 2 minutes, so 60 to 120 seconds. So that's a lot of Vaal Fireballs you could get in there. The unfortunate interaction here is that the thing that made Vaal Fireball good is that you could shield charge down, Vaal Fireball everything, shield charge down, Vaal Fireball everything. So you can't do that anymore. You're going to be like, starting out, you'll get your souls, you'll charge down like a bit of the map and fireball it. You'll have to wait 5 seconds, killing stuff with normal fireball, and then do it again. I don't know if that playstyle is going to be very good, we'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, it could be good. A lot of people are pretty hyped to use it. I've seen Noogie talking about it a lot on his stream, so he's pretty hyped about it. We'll just have to see. The other thing is Vaal skills like this and Spark aren't very good in Underground Sea, which is currently the meta. So we'll just have to see about that one. Next up, Spark, similar deal, fairly low kind of speed here, cooldown, but yeah, same as Spark, it got buffed out the arse. Low soul cost, very similar to File Fireball. We'll just have to see if that playstyle works, where you just use Spark and then boom, go into that. I think Vaal Spark's got a better chance of succeeding than Fireball because it has the AoE Spark Threshold Jewel, which is very, very good and makes normal Spark actually a good clearing skill. So you get a AoE Spark, which is good at clearing, and then you get a Vaal Spark every so often. So that could be quite nice, but it's not going to be what it used to be. So next up we have Molten Shell and the auras to talk about. So Vaal Molten Shell, why is that on here? This used to be a super old, kind of fairly unique clear speed build, and the way it worked is with Ignite. So I put it on here because Ignite proliferation, which means Ignite can spread around, got buffed massively, and Ignite damage got buffed massively. So that's why it's on here. It's a fairly complicated spell. If you're a beginner, don't look into this too much. It also requires an item which is very rare, which is Skuld's Bridle. But yeah, I put it on here for you guys who are a bit of hipsters. Maybe you guys want to try it out. I'll be trying it out. So yeah, check that out. Should be pretty nice. So next up, I want to talk about the auras. The auras got a massive nerf. Holy moly, Aurabot got smashed in the teeth. Real kick in the balls. So Vaal Clarity is basically unusable on an Aurabot. 12-second cooldown of being locked out of getting souls is just a no-go, so Vaal Clarity is off the table. As an Auramancer, you will not be using that anymore. So next up, Vaal, Discipline, Grace, and Haste. These have all been very powerful choices in the past, and used to pretty much keep up all of them. And there were all options to choose from. This is going to be a little bit more difficult now, due to the fact of these lockout timers. So, currently, I've talked to a lot of my Aura support friends, and what they're saying they're going to do is, you'll get into a map with your team, you won't use any Vaal skills for the first few minutes, well not minutes, sorry, the first few packs. So your carry will run up, kill everything, you'll gain Vaal souls on Vaal Discipline. And then your carry will kill more, you'll get Vaal stones on Grace, and then Haste. So you've got all three Vaal skills available to you. So this is where you're going to basically piano them like flasks. You'll activate 1, 2, 3. And that will actually, from what I understand, just... So you'll have a lockout timer of 5, and then it'll be like 6, and then 9. I don't believe the lockout timers stack on top of each other. I hope they don't. But yeah, so they will override each other, and you won't be locked out for that long. And you'll be able to keep all three of them up pretty much indefinitely due to the nerfed soul costs. So it went from about having 75 soul costs to 50, so that's a 50% decrease. So that's pretty damn nice. Duration isn't a problem. You can just get the duration nodes on the tree and use increased duration in your setup. So you're going to be able to keep them up for probably, like, what would I say, like 15 seconds with proper duration stacking. So yeah, just every time you get all of them up, piano them, boom, and then you got all of them up. Wait for them to run out, piano them whenever you want at the last second, and it's going to be pretty nice for you. It won't be a problem. And if you can't keep up Grace, just do Discipline and Haste. Those are really the important ones. Grace is a very defensive one. Probably you want that if you're playing on hardcore. So that's going to be that. If you're still having trouble keeping them up, use Adziri's Rain, which is a gem which actually got nerfed this patch as well, but we'll check that out in a second. So, support gems, really quickly. I'm probably taking too long in this video, but yeah. Power Charge and Critical. This got buffed massively, so you now get a more multiplier per power charge on you, on top of the massive crit buff that it had on it anyway. On top of the fact it also gets you free power charges. So why is this good? This is good for Auto Bomber. You now have a more multiplier that works, from what I understand, on Heralds. Because it just says more damage. It doesn't say more damage with spells, attacks, or anything. Just straight up more damage, which is really nice. In addition to that, it also gives you around 100% increased crit on your Heralds. So that's as good as any crit node wheel on the tree. It's probably going to give you about 5% more crit, or maybe even more, on your Heralds. So a lot of the time you were hard stuck at like 71, 72, 73% crit on Heralds. Now you'll be able to go up a little bit more, if the damage works out to be better than added cold and stuff like that, to like 77, maybe even 80%, which is going to give you more consistency on your auto bombers, hopefully more damage as well, which could be pretty damn nice. So next up, I also have Ignite Proliferation. I wanted to talk a little bit more about this one, but it's getting a bit long on the video here. Basically, this and Vaal Molten Shell, that's what I made bring it up. It's going to be pretty good together. The proliferation range is with AoE stacking. Heavy AoE stacking is pretty damn nice. So in a map like Toxic Sewers, in theory, you could actually chain the Ignite all the way through the map, similar to how an auto bomber functions. But yeah, Ignite could be good, maybe, I'm not sure. I'll give it a go and let you guys know what I think about that one. So yeah, Vaal Molten Shell, maybe it's good, maybe it's not. We'll just have to see. So Elder Ring, really quickly going to talk about this one. So basically, we all know the Elder Ring nerfs. I've done a video on it in the past. We now know how many maps it takes to have it eliminated. So let's say you set up your Elder Ring or your Elder Influence or Ping Pong Effect or whatever. 20 maps after you establish the Elder and get him on the map, there will be a chance every map after that to have him completely wiped out and deleted from the Atlas. All Elder Influence gone, back to the original clean slate. So that's a really big deal. That just means that the bubble or square, whatever you call it, is going to be even more of a kind of incentive to do that. Or you can just kill the Elder or whatever. But the other alternative, which I've seen as a exploit, which I'm not going to be doing because it's not fun, but everyone probably will do it, is that if you have two different people and they both have Elder influence on good maps, you can swap hideouts with each other and just open each other's maps and do maps in the opposite hideouts, because when the person who opens the map isn't in the Elder map, when it's cleared and completed, it won't take the Elder influence off. So you can basically snapshot Elder influence by swapping hideouts with someone. In theory, I could do this. I have a trader this league, but I'm not going to do it. It doesn't seem fun, and that actually does feel like an exploit. I don't think that that's meant to be how it works, but you know, whatever. Hopefully that isn't in the game. I let GGG know the best I could on Reddit, but yeah, I really don't want that to be the best way to play, but whatever. I'm going to be doing the bubble, not that kind of hideout swapping tactic, so that's that. Few quality of life changes here. They updated some maps. Crystal Ore, Malformation, and Pit of the Chimera are all more linear. I think this is a really good change. They should do it with more maps. Similar to how they updated Underground Sea, I think that these other maps now will be much more enjoyable to run and potentially a little bit profitable. Crystal Ore actually, I believe, drops the legacy kind of old league item div card, which could be quite cool. And obviously Malformation drops I believe, Taste of Hate card, so that could be pretty nice as well. One other thing is you can no longer cheat the T16 Elder Orb. So this is kind of counterbalanced by the fact that the T16 Elder Orb is much easier to get. It's completely consistent now. All you need to do is get Guardians on a T, I think, on red maps. Yeah, you need 4 Guardians on red maps and the Elder himself, and you have your Elder Orb on your own. But yeah, you can't do the whole get a T16 map, get someone to open it up, and then get in there kind of thing. That doesn't work anymore, but yeah, you can get it on your own very easily now. Lastly, I want to talk about Zana mods. So let's get into these Zana mods. They are complete garbage, and then I want to talk about the saddest change in this patch. So the Zana mods are looking pretty bad. We've got Beyond, Abyss, Breach, and that's pretty much it, right? Yeah, nothing else is looking too good there. And maybe Domination. So Beyond, obviously we know it. It's good. It's here to stay. They've never really had a league without it. Everyone loves it. Quant, I don't think you can actually lose money if you play in a group. Just going to get tons of uniques, tons of currency, and it's going to be a good time. Domination, no Quant on it, so that sucks. But you get 3 extra shrines, so what's that? It's probably about 200 more monsters. So it's not bad. But for 4 Chaos, pretty steep. And some shrines are notorious for not having any monsters around them at all, so it's a bit of a gamble. So Domination, probably not worth doing. Beyond is probably better. Abyss is going to be good in T15 and T16 maps, because you can guarantee an item level 82 Abyss Jewel. And that's very, very important, because that's what you can roll T1 life on, and that means you can get 50 life or energy shield on it. And those sell for about 10 chaos, and you're basically guaranteed one unless you get a crappy Abyssal Depths, and then you cry. But yeah, it looks like that's going to be pretty profitable. If you can get in there early. I'm not sure what the Abyss Jewel prices are going to look like, because everyone will probably be doing this, because Abyss is now, you can just get it every time. We'll just have to see. But yeah, it could be pretty lucrative to do Abyss. Not too sure. And then last, the Big Daddy Breach is back. Woo! Oh, but it's not going to be the same, guys. Anyway, we've got Breach here. 6 Chaos, 2 Breaches. Pretty damn nice. Always worth it, especially in a group. Holy crap, so good. Yes, Breach is back, boys. But we got some bad news. We have some bad news. If we control F Breach here, we'll go down here. Let's see. Normal and magic monsters from Breaches now drop significantly fewer items. So they basically gutted it, and that's what it sounds like. It sounds like that they completely ripped off all the increased quantity that breaches had before. So it's basically going to be the same as killing a few packs of mobs apart from the rares, and that sounds very unappealing to me. Um, that won't affect breach splinters. Breach splinters are still going to be the same. But are they going to drop as many div cards? No. Are they going to drop as many currency items? No. Are they going to drop anywhere near as many uniques? Probably not. Definitely not great. It sounds like they've taken the fun out of breach a little bit, but it still could be good. I think it actually probably still is profitable. Let's just say they're the same as white and blue mobs on the map. Let's say you get about 100 to 150 mobs per breach on a good map. Please don't use this on toxic sewers and stuff like that. It's not worth it. You want to be using this on burial chambers, maybe atoll, and open maps like that. Like Underground Sea, probably pretty decent as well. In a group, don't use this solo anymore. I think it's probably going to lose you money, but we'll see. But yeah, you're probably going to make your money back. If it's got 150 to 200 mobs per breach, that's probably a little bit generous. Probably 100 to 150. That's about as good as a sextant. Sextants are probably around 3 chaos anyway, and you get the splinters pretty much for free. Yeah, not bad, not bad. I think breach is still very much worth running. We're probably going to rush Zana 8 and run it on all our maps. So yeah, it's probably not dead, but it's definitely not as fun as it used to be, and not as lucrative either. So that's going to be that, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. The team video will be coming up. Hopefully this wasn't too long for you. I will be streaming, new setup, good stuff. See you guys in the next one. Probably will be today. Have a good one, and get hyped for Incursion, boys. See you later.